blocked my best friend after she talked behind my back, but now my other friend feels caught in the middle. Should I clear the air or let it be? I do not really know where to begin, to be honest. I am K, 13 years old, female, and I discovered that one of my best friends, whom I will call N, 14 years old, female, was speaking negatively about me and my other best friend, E, 13 years old, female. I understand this may seem like typical middle school drama and all, but I genuinely do not want this to jeopardize my friendship with either of the girls. We were very close before this situation arose, and I do not want to ruin it simply because I might be overreacting. Now, N, E, and I are all competitive cheerleaders, and E and I are crossovers. Crossovers are girls who participate in 2 teams simultaneously. E and I are on a level 2 team together and also on a level 1 team with N, if that makes sense. I am not sure if that is particularly relevant, but my sister mentioned it when I was explaining the situation to her, so I thought I would include it. Recently, the last few practices have been quite stressful since we have an upcoming competition. While we were warming up for practice on Saturday, E and I, along with a few other girls, were discussing random topics, and N became a bit irritable, instructing us to stop talking. I assumed she was joking, and I began playfully arguing with her, though perhaps it was not playful for her, at which point she made a comment, and I joked that I enjoyed getting on people's nerves. Now, to highlight a few points about this. 1. There were many individuals talking including her, and I was the only one she specifically addressed regarding the talking issue. 2. She was conversing and laughing with another girl, M, 9 years old, female, so I presumed she was just joking when she snapped at me, considering she appeared perfectly fine just 5 seconds earlier. 3. It seemed clear that I was joking when I mentioned that annoying people is fun because other girls were laughing, and even E was partially laughing, so I assumed everyone understood it was a joke. Plus, N later admitted she recognized it as a joke, which will be addressed later in the story. After we completed our stretching, I noticed N and E conversing, and of course, I did not think much of it since we are all best friends, and there is nothing wrong with them talking while I was occupied. However, I sensed something was amiss because of the hand gestures N was making. She waves her hands around when she is angry about something. After E and N finished their conversation, E approached me quickly and informed me that N was speaking negatively about me. I must confess that it did hurt my feelings a bit, but I brushed it off and asked what N had said about me in a joking manner. It turned out that N had expressed, and I quote, "I love K, but when she stated that she enjoys getting on people's nerves, it just annoyed me because she dislikes it when I annoy her, but she does it intentionally. It is so incredibly frustrating. She should just shut up." Naturally, I confronted her over text because confrontation is not my strong suit, and she essentially made excuses for what she said, although she did admit to it, so I will give her credit for that. I would like to point out that this is not the first time she has spoken about others. She has commented on almost everyone on the team, including E. After we spoke and she apologized, and I apologized, I believed we were okay. However, I was clearly mistaken because on Sunday, she continued to speak about me, even calling me a dumbass, and she once again brought up E. Consequently, I decided to block her after practice. I did not intend to completely sever contact with her for 2 reasons. 1. I still somewhat consider her my best friend, and 2. It is nearly impossible to completely eliminate communication with someone you are on a team with and need to speak to. Nonetheless, I did not plan to cut her out entirely. I only intended to block her until we could learn to communicate effectively in person, at which point I would unblock her and attempt to resume normal conversations. So, where does he fit into this story? Well, when I told E about my plan to block N, she assumed I meant I was blocking her for good, which made her quite upset. I'm not entirely sure if she was upset with me or just feeling generally frustrated, but we ended up having a lengthy conversation about how she did not want me to block her. I tried to explain that N and I needed to work on our relationship outside of text messages, and blocking her could prevent N from simply texting an apology and acting like everything was fine, if that makes sense. During this conversation, E sent a message in the group chat shared between me, E, and N, essentially telling us that we need to resolve our issues, or at least stop involving her in them, because it was upsetting her to the point where she was crying, which made me feel guilty because I interpreted it as her saying I was making her upset to tears. After that, I replied, "I am sorry," and then privately messaged her, assuring her that I would not involve her in our problems. At this point, I was crying because it had been a very stressful day, and I felt like I was not only upsetting my friends, but I was also forcing them to deal with my issues, which I cannot stand. After I told her that, she began sending me ideas of things she wanted to do or making jokes, and I was responding with short answers because I was still emotional about the entire situation. E then inquired if I was okay, and I told her that I was fine. She continued to press, and wanting to be a good friend and not drag her back into my problems, since it upset her, I expressed this. After she insisted she did not care and just wanted to ensure I was okay, I remained firm, so she became irritated and simply replied with, "K." Understanding that she was upset, I apologized and told her that if she needed anything, she could text me. She then responded with, "It's fine, I have already said everything I wanted to say anyway," followed by, "Seriously, you have apologized like 10 times today, so if you need to vent, do it in the Notes app." I assumed she was angry with me, so I just said, "Okay," and at this point, I was sobbing because I hate having arguments like this with E. Afterward, I sent a message to N, apologizing for everything, and she replied with an apology. I texted in the group chat that I would not be responding to messages for a few days, and I muted E, N, and the group chat to avoid the temptation of texting them. Unfortunately, I ended up texting E anyway, which I regret, and I told her that she would not have to worry about my issues anymore, and that I would keep her out of any drama I encountered, thinking this would make her happy. Instead, it seemed to upset her more because she responded, stating that she just wanted me to confide in her, even though that would reintroduce her to the entire situation, and that by my not sharing my feelings and thoughts, I was hurting her. Afterward, she sent a message saying, "Never mind, just do whatever you want." I am unsure whether I made her angry or not, as that was not my intention, yet it happened anyway. I do not know if I should communicate this to her, but it bothers me that we are not on speaking terms right now, and I just want E back. I have come to terms with the possibility that N and I may never be friends again because she does not put an effort to maintain the friendship. She expects others to do everything, and it is very exhausting. I would appreciate any advice you all can provide regarding what to do and how to approach this situation. Should I share everything with E and draw her back into this chaos, or should I leave her unaware and risk our friendship? Most importantly, am I in the wrong? Story 2. I, 19M, can't seem to communicate to my 19F girlfriend that this relationship feels one-sided. How can I tell her? I have a girlfriend. She is the first girlfriend I have ever had, and I am unsure how to navigate this situation. I have attempted to communicate with her, sought advice from my parents to understand how best to approach things, and now I find myself feeling desperate and at a loss for what to do. It's quite frustrating. For some context, she and I attended high school together, where we graduated. We were in classes together, conversed frequently, and shared the same group of friends. While we did not interact much initially, over time our interactions increased, and I developed feelings for her because I thought she was cute and nerdy. She was always very energetic and enthusiastic when talking about her passions and stories, which I found appealing. We began dating at prom, where we talked for a long time. I thought it might be the last opportunity I would have to see her, so I asked her for her phone number. Later that night, when everyone was leaving, she confessed her feelings for me, surprising both of us since I had planned to confess to her as well. We attempted to discuss our feelings, but we were continuously interrupted. Finally, we retreated to a back room to speak privately, but our conversation became awkward, and we ended up staring at old Christmas gifts that were inexplicably there. Just as we were about to kiss, others came in, interrupting us, and she hurried out, nearly tripping while trying to kiss me. I was elated to have her phone number, and we began talking. However, she had to go to the desert, and during the last few days of school, I was unable to see her. We communicated over the phone, which was enjoyable. We shared memes, discussed our interests, and chatted about life, which was fun and marked the beginning of our relationship. We both liked each other and decided to date. Although she was away in the desert, we maintained our phone conversations. Eventually, I was involved in a car accident while she was there and needed her support. We continued talking after that, and she eventually returned home. Our first date was rather awkward. She took the initiative to hold my hand while I was unsure of how to respond. We held hands during the movie, but I was mostly focused on her while she was paying attention to the film, which confused me as I was incredibly nervous. After dropping her off, I did not have my driver's license at that time. Moving forward, we continued to talk and planned a second date to see a different movie, The Alien Not Alien Isolation, which is a video game. During that date, I cuddled her while she was frightened and seeking comfort. Fast forward a bit, she aspired to have a dream job in the military but unfortunately did not make it through training. This news shattered her, and I was unsure how to support her. I wanted to give her space, but I also consistently reached out to check on how she was doing. On our fourth date, which happened to be my birthday, we went to Olive Garden and then grocery shopping with my family, which was enjoyable for both of us. After dropping her off, I wondered if I was annoying her because I wanted to talk to her consistently. I asked her directly, and she assured me I was not annoying her. However, the following day, when I wanted to make plans, I encountered issues with my internet connection, which left me feeling frustrated. Although I did not lash out at her, I expressed my irritation over not being able to communicate, and I apologized for my annoyance. As days passed, we started talking less frequently, and I began to feel she was distancing herself from me. I expressed my desire for more conversation, which led her to propose a schedule for our calls at 1 p.m. daily when she had free time. Due to her challenges after failing military school and moving in with her grandmother, she often became busy, which left me feeling lonely. I wanted to talk more, so we established the 1 p.m. call schedule. I made a genuine effort to call her at that time, but she did not reciprocate the same commitment. It felt disheartening because I was investing emotionally while it seemed like my efforts were not being matched. I became tired of waiting for her messages that often came late, 30 minutes or even hours later. I decided to tell her that I needed to watch my brother, which was true, and she suggested we move our conversations to 6 p.m. While these discussions were fun at times, there were days when I would reach out and be left waiting without a response. It became increasingly frustrating as the instances of being ghosted became more frequent. We had a party where we cuddled, talked, and she met my family, which was enjoyable. However, after that, when I attempted to initiate a conversation the following day, I was left in silence. I sent her a message detailing my day and inquired about hers, but she claimed to have completely forgotten. This pattern continued over the next few days. I felt ignored and expressed my frustration about being neglected. I wanted her to inform me when she was busy, so I would not wait around. In the following weeks, we spoke sporadically, and I decided to take a break from contacting her to see what would happen. Unfortunately, it resulted in silence on her end, with only the occasional random message from her. I felt conflicted. On one hand, she seemed willing to engage occasionally, but on the other, I sensed disappointment in her lack of initiative to maintain our communication. Eventually, when she came over again after much anticipation, it turned out she was unable to meet as her parents required her to babysit. I mistakenly thought she was disregarding me. Upon calling her, I recognized that she sounded exhausted and irritated with her current situation. I expressed my feelings, and when she finally came over, we cuddled and engaged in light-hearted interaction. While I sought to understand what our relationship meant, I found myself questioning her openness. Recently, I humorously asked her if I could see her chest, and she surprised me by agreeing. The next day, I expressed my admiration for that moment and requested to see it again, which she permitted. While these moments were significant for me as a teenage boy, they added to my confusion about our relationship status. At this point, I am overwhelmed with uncertainty. I am consistently the one reaching out to make plans, and she has told me she struggles with communication due to her difficult past. This dynamic is frustrating, as I am always the one maintaining contact, checking in on her, but she rarely mirrors my efforts. She does offer support when I share my struggles, but whenever I suggest she could reach out similarly, she tends to retreat. I find myself feeling undeserving of this fluctuating connection. Despite her insistence that she enjoys spending time with me, there is a constant dread that I am overly reliant on her for emotional support. I worry that I have had the same conversation with her multiple times about wanting better communication, and more shared experiences. Ultimately, I am left in limbo, unsure if I still want to be in this relationship. Perhaps it's the stress in my life, or perhaps it's a true disconnect in how and when we can communicate. Our exchanges have become too random. Some days she agrees to talk while others result in silence, which is deeply disappointing. I am seeking advice on how to navigate this situation. I am losing patience and don't want to be a burden, but I crave a deeper connection and more time together, especially since she frequently seems busy. I love her more than I ever thought possible. Story 3. Lost in a cycle of anxiety and isolation, I struggle to show my true self while yearning for connection. Months of mental turmoil leave me questioning my worth. How do I break free and find peace in this chaotic mind? Hello, everyone. This is my first time posting anything like this on an online platform, and even discussing it with anyone in such depth or to this degree. What follows is a journal entry of mine from yesterday and today. I would appreciate any advice on steps I can take to help myself, as I am reaching a significant low point. I tend to conceal my feelings very well, to the extent that if you were to ask my friends and family, they would have no idea how low I am mentally, as I am adept at putting on a facade perhaps too well for my own health. I genuinely appreciate any comments. March 10, 2025, I have been off venlafaxine effexor for 3 days simply because I completely forgot that it exists and that I need to take it. This has had both positive and negative aspects. Withdrawal symptoms are occurring, such as dread, increased anxiety manifesting as chest pains, trembling, emotional instability, elevated heart rate, shivers down my spine, and alternating hot and cold sensations. I can't think clearly and can only focus on the negative aspects of my life. March 11, 2025, I took 150 milligrams of venlafaxine effexor and 20 milligrams of frisium instead of the usual 10 milligrams. However, frisium has been entirely ineffective. I can usually tell when it is working at the standard 10 milligram dose. The positives that have emerged from this experience are that I have begun to recognize aspects of myself that I had previously not acknowledged, possibly because I suppressed them and bottled them up, which over time has only exacerbated their impact. The main issue is a severe fear of judgment that has been present since I was a young child, which has hindered me in the following areas: relationships, romantic, friendships, family, making decisions that impact my future, career, and financial choices, chronic stress and generalized anxiety, low self-esteem, diminished sense of self-worth and negative self-talk, depression, feelings of hopelessness and despair in everyday life, isolation and loneliness, severe in many cases. This also manifests in gradual behavioral changes, such as people-pleasing, prioritizing others' approval, and constantly seeking validation, perfectionism, leading to harsh self-criticism and frequent mental burnout, avoidance of expressing opinions, agreeing with others when I have differing views, not sharing my ideas, thoughts, or feelings, masking my true self, presenting a false image of myself to gain acceptance and please others, acting in ways that may not align with my true identity. A crucial point I want to emphasize is that under virtually all circumstances, I do not reveal my true self. I always wear a mask that is carefully and specifically crafted for each interaction with an individual or group. I literally live a lie day in and day out. The pain this brings me is difficult to articulate. It truly is debilitating. I also feel overwhelming guilt. My parents do not deserve to deal with this, yet I understand that they cannot avoid it due to their care for me. The treatment they receive from me in this state is wretched, unfair, and disrespectful, but it seems beyond my control. Attempting to shift my attitude to a more positive one over the last 2 days has been an overwhelming failure. I lack the mental capacity or strength to do this effectively at this moment. There have been moments, both now and in the past, where I have sincerely wished that I was never born, or that my parents had a child who was mentally stable one they deserve. Much to my dismay, this does not appear to describe me. As I observe my peers getting married or at least engaged in solid, long-term relationships, I cannot help but belittle myself. This has reached a point where I know that I yearn for a connection with someone, but in reality, I am not in a position to even consider it at this time due to my past decisions and current circumstances. This is my own doing. But regardless, it is a pain I endure for 12 hours each day. I despise myself because of this. For various reasons, my past friendships have deteriorated, and I am left with 3 people whom I know will support me at all times. I appreciate them for this. Even with these individuals, who consistently have my back and have demonstrated that support in numerous instances, I do not feel comfortable discussing these issues with them. This returns to my fear of judgment. I know they do not perceive it that way since they have confided in me during their difficult times, but I cannot bring myself to open up and talk to them. I do not believe I could ever take my own life, a matter for which I have often criticized others when they have contemplated it, never directly, as that would be insensitive, but the past 2 days have helped me understand the feeling and the depths to which one can sink mentally. This depression and sadness experienced over the previous 2 days is unlike any other depressive episode I have ever had. As I write this paragraph, I feel a sick, empty sensation in my stomach. I wish I were not this person. I genuinely wonder what contributing factors and causes have shaped me into who I am today, but I know that I should not dwell on this, as it is an endless downward spiral that leads to nothing positive but only continues to drag me down. I have also realized that I have begun to crave human connection intensely in every way. I do not feel capable of articulating this clearly at the moment, so I will leave it there for now. I have also started to crave illicit substances to help numb these emotions. I have successfully resisted this urge by having a few glasses of scotch when it arises, as it provides me with a temporary buzz. I fear that at some point, I will give in, as my ability to say no to myself is rapidly diminishing. This struggle has been ongoing for not just the past few days, but the past few months. My mind has been overwhelmingly loud and busy, to the point where I feel as though I am losing my sanity. There are so many issues and negative thoughts competing for my attention that I never have a moment of peace or tranquility. I can say that I have not truly felt at peace or calm in many years, likely since I graduated high school. My mind is always racing at full capacity. I also feel that privacy and personal space are virtually non-existent. This is somewhat unavoidable since I currently live with my parents, but it has been weighing heavily on my mind, and I believe it is a significant factor contributing to these feelings. I also cannot move out, again due to my financial situation and the excessive rate at which I overspend. Impulsivity, what a wonderful trait, meant with all the sarcasm in the world. The usual chest pains I experience as a result of my anxiety are intensifying. Today, I have experienced the pain since the moment I woke up, and it is far more severe than usual. I can best describe it by saying it feels as though a car is resting on my chest, an immense weight pressing inward, accompanied by an extremely intense sensation of stress around the center and left side of my chest leading to my heart. Story 4. I'm fed up. Did I do something wrong? Or do people just not like me? Or are people really hypocrites? Feeling down after a recent rejection and social setback. Warning. This post is lengthy because I believe it is essential to provide details about my background. I initially wrote it in Spanish, but I translated it to share it here. I have been feeling unwell for a long time now. I am a 27-year-old man. I enrolled in university twice and did not complete my studies on either occasion due to various issues, including my attention deficit and the health problems of my mother and grandmother, with whom I lived. Although I worked briefly, I was unable to find additional employment afterward, and my situation deteriorated further as I had to assist my mother with the daily care of my bedridden grandmother, which left me unable to work. Additionally, during the pandemic, I faced difficulties because I had developed feelings for a girl I met on Facebook. I was unsure how to navigate such situations. I was indecisive and insecure, so after talking for a while, I stopped communicating with her. However, after the pandemic, I thought about her frequently and began reaching out excessively, which ultimately led her to block me across all platforms. I never discovered whether she had any feelings for me. I have never had a girlfriend. As time went on, my grandmother passed away, and I witnessed her death. Prior to that, I was already receiving psychological treatment for my self-esteem issues, anxiety, body dysmorphia, as I am approximately 5 feet tall and slim, and possibly for autism or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. After my grandmother died, everything deteriorated further. The urgency to find work became more pressing, and my mother's health continued to decline due to several illnesses. She likely has no more than 5 years to live. Bills are piling up, and I am uncertain how we will manage to pay them. Although I secured a short-term job, I do not receive payment until next month, and we currently have no income. All of this contributes to my feelings of distress. However, what occurred recently has made me feel even worse. Just over a week ago, I found a temporary job that lasted for 9 days. Yesterday was my final day, and this is why I am writing this post. This is what happened. I believed I was handling things correctly. The job required interaction with others, so initially, it felt a bit strange since I had not socialized much for an extended period. However, I gradually acclimated and my coworkers were kind. Among them was a girl who was also working during that time frame. I found her attractive. She was quiet and somewhat introverted. Although we did not share many common interests like the other girl, such as games, anime, and religion, I began to fantasize and eventually felt drawn to her, despite not knowing whether she had a boyfriend. I suspected that she did. On the last day, we talked more, laughed together, and I got to know her a bit better. She provided me with her full name when I asked for it, and I shared mine in return. I said my goodbyes and went home, feeling pleased to have worked a bit, to have met new people, to have overcome some insecurities, and to have met her. However, I wanted more. I wanted to know her better. This is where things became complicated. I did not ask for her Instagram account, nor did she offer it to me, as I thought that might be too forward. I wanted to ask, but ultimately I refrained. Regardless, I searched for her on social media. This last part makes me feel somewhat guilty because I acted like a stalker, using information I gathered from our conversations to find her on Instagram. Her account was private, so I sent her a follow request. Hours went by, and she rejected the request, and shortly after that, she blocked me. This reminded me of when another girl had done the same, but the difference was that during the pandemic, I genuinely believed I had fallen in love with the previous girl since we had many shared interests and had longer conversations. In contrast, I did not feel such intense emotions for my coworker. When she blocked me, the sensation was more one of disappointment in myself, as I thought I had made progress in socializing and in talking to someone I liked. Although that interaction did not necessarily lead to a relationship, I felt somewhat equipped to ascertain whether she indeed had a boyfriend. I question whether my action of searching for her on Instagram was appropriate and if I frightened her. It was not easy to engage with her given her introverted and somewhat shy personality. If she likely had a boyfriend, that provided her with additional reasons to block me, as she probably realized my feelings for her and felt that I was trying too hard to find her, as I have no idea how to flirt. Sometimes it is too obvious, and other times I do nothing. This makes her rejection less troubling, as I might have reacted similarly had I been in her position. I do not know. If what I did was wrong, it is a mistake from which I can learn, and I should simply be more direct when seeking to stay in contact with another person. The real issue lies with the additional thoughts that emerge, as I believe not only that I made a mistake, but also that I am fundamentally flawed. And to some extent, other people are as well. I wonder if she did not like me and merely tolerated my presence over those days, similar to how many people have related to me in some manner. Perhaps my presence, my appearance, my way of speaking, my words, my expressiveness, etc., annoyed her. I also perceive people as hypocrites for pretending to like me. All of this has shattered the positive thoughts I previously held about myself, leading to insecurity regarding social interactions again. How will I know if someone genuinely likes me? Am I acting appropriately? How can I avoid doing anything cringeworthy that could displease someone or create a negative impression? How will I discern if people are simply being kind out of obligation while genuinely disliking me or possibly even resenting me? The thoughts I believed I had overcome are resurfacing. Will anyone ever understand me? Will anyone my age ever have feelings for me? Nevertheless, I do not want to harbor negative feelings toward the girl from work or any other girl. I do not want to dislike them or anything of that nature. They will have their justifications, and that is valid. Simultaneously, I do not want to view myself as worthless or undeserving of affection. I want to maintain a positive outlook, believing that her reasons for rejecting me were justifiable and that I am advancing in my maturity and social skills. However, it is difficult. This is compounded by the fact that there is still some time before next month, and my mother's health and mood have worsened compared to previous days.